Hello, Soulmaz. Thank you so much for agreeing me to give your interview.
My pleasure. Very nice to meet you, and hello to your audience and followers.
Could you please tell me about yourself? How long have you been working as a lawyer, and why did you do?
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Soulmaz Taгаvi. I am Iranian American. So my parents immigrated from Iran in the 80s to come as students and eventually stayed and got their green cards. And I was born here in the US. My father was a social worker for City of Richmond in Virginia, and he did a lot of work with Afghan refugees. And growing up, I got to help him, help people get assimilated, help translate at doctor's appointments, and even help fill out immigration forms. So that experience, along with going back to Iran and seeing my family in Iran, really made me curious about immigration and why I have a totally different life and why I can, travel more than, my family back in Iran. And why it's so hard to be united. So that's what inspired me to be an immigration attorney. And I'm going to be an immigration attorney for 10 years this year. So pretty exciting.
So I know that you were immigration attorney, and the most important questions for me, for my audience, it's a work visa, EB1, EB2,
Sure.
EB3. So a lot of people asking, like, let's start with EB3. What is right now, what is a typical processing duration for EB3 application?
Sure. Yeah, so let me just tell you about EB3 in general. So EB stands for employment based. So whenever you see a case that says EB, you're looking at a path to citizenship, meaning that you're going to have your employer petition for you to get your green card. There's 3 categories. It's kind of the most liberal or most open categories that there are under the employment-based visas. So there's skilled workers, unskilled workers, and professionals. So that allows people even with no training, for example, unskilled workers, or maybe 2 years training, skilled workers, or professionals, those with bachelor's degrees. So those are the 3 different requirements that kind of open the door to many people that maybe the other cases wouldn't. There's 3 major parts to an EB3 application. The first part is called the PERM process. So PERM is short for lawful permanent resident. Part of that first process is requesting from the Department of Labor a prevailing wage, meaning your employer has to pay you the right amount. They cannot underpay you. So depending on your job, your qualifications, and the area in which you will live to perform the job, they have to obtain that wage and certify that they can pay you that wage. And then we start the recruitment process. So the employer has to show no other US citizen can fulfill this position. So they begin advertising, and they do have to interview anyone else that applies for the job, but they have to show that you as the immigrant worker are most qualified for the position. So you do that part of the process, you submit the certification to the government, and I don't like to give too many timelines because things are always changing, but we can say that could take up to 10 months as like an average step. PERM process, yeah, that whole step. Then you have step number 2. Step number 2 is the petition. So that's when the employer has done all the kind of requirements for advertising, for payment. They're ready to hire you, and you're ready to start working, and they submit the petition or the I-140 form to USCIS, to immigration. That also, the time varies. We could say that could be between 4 to 6 months in order for that to be approved. It always depends on what service center is processing the case. So sometimes there's a service center that's taking 5 months, another one taking 20 months. So it's a little bit all over the place, but you can use what's called premium processing. So premium processing, you pay an extra fee to get a decision within 2 weeks. So that's something that you could choose to do.
It's only, yeah, it's only for I-140. It's for
just so in this EB3 process, it's just for that portion. So when I tell you about the next step and the last step, you'll kind of see that maybe that's not as beneficial. So the last step is, once you have that petition approved, you're then subject to the visa bulletin. So there is basically a allotted number of green cards that they can give out per category. So Department of State every month is going to put on their visa bulletin where they are in the processing times. So you may get an approval in 2 weeks, but then you find out, like, for example, if you're an Indian national, you may have to wait 10 years to get your green card. So sometimes that premium processing won't help you at the last step. So that's something that you can decide whether it's worth doing the premium processing or not. But like I said, the last step, it's going to depend on what country you're from, you know, what category, and if the government is backlogged, which right now they're backlogged, you will have to wait, and that kind of updates every month. So we don't really have a specific time frame for that.
So Soulmaz, for example, you said it's only for I-140. You can pay like expedite, like premium processing. What about advanced parole and like work authorization? It's also, if I-140 will be approved, you will get your work authorization.
So actually the work authorization and the travel document is only attached to the green card application. So that very last step.
Oh.
Yes.
I thought
so. So usually people that are going through the EB3 process, they are either on a student visa, they're on OPT, which is optimal practical training, something that they can receive after the student visa. They may be on a TN visa if they're from Mexico or Canada. They may be on an H-1B. So usually you're going to have something temporary keeping you going until you can get that green card if you're in the US. If you're outside the US, that's not a problem. You'll do your consular processing, the last part for your green card in the US consulate in your home country, and then you come to the US, you know, with the ability to work and your green card.
So you said that you should like get like one status, like for example, F1 visa until you receive a green card?
Yes, yeah. Because as you can see, this between the different steps, it's going to take time. So you have to make sure that you stay in status, meaning you haven't violated any of your visa requirements, as well as you can work, right? Because you probably have a job and you need to work and survive.
And as the third step, it will be like F485, change of status?
Yes. Yep. Exactly. I-485 adjustment of status.
So right now, how long it takes like EB3 to get EB3, like total filing from get like green card?
So the truth is I can't answer that question because it depends, right? If you're from India, we're talking about 10 plus years. And it could be tomorrow that or next month that the visa bulletin changes. So what I can say is the first step of the process, let's see, I'd probably say 10 months for the perm labor certification. Second step of the process, I would say 4 to 6 months, right? If you do premium processing, 2 weeks. And then the last step could be 0 if it's current and you get the green card once they process, or it could be 10 plus years if you're in one of those categories that are super long, like India is the best example I can give you.
So what do you think about like this retrogression, when it will be like canceled, or it's still pending, correct? It's not current, I mean.
Right. So the visa bulletin updates every month, and it's really been impacted by COVID because there was closings for about 2 years. And so we didn't have officers processing cases. after we kind of got the vaccine, we got everyone back in the office, the time sped up, but we're really seeing that, you know, the lag on the visa bulletin. I think it's going to depend who our next president is, who our next administration is, because in the US, the executive office impacts immigration law in a very big way, unlike any other type of law. So I think, you know, this is an election year. In November, we're going to decide who's our next president. And that's really going to make a difference in what could be fixed on the visa bulletin, or what is going to get worse or slow down. So if you see, like, for example, if Trump is elected, most people are applying for things. They're more active in their trying to get their immigration work done. So you see things slow down because, you know, the system is being overloaded. Also, he usually will make a lot more changes to immigration law. So that could affect everything, really. So my prediction is whoever's the next president is going to make the biggest change in this process.
What work visa categories does your company handle, like mostly?
Our office handles, as far as work visas go, H-1Bs, E-2 treaties, which I love those cases. So E-2 treaties are for people that are from a country that is listed on this treaty, and they can make a substantial investment, which is, it could be 100,000, it could be 50,000, or it could be much more, in a business in the United States, and then they can come and work for, you know, an extended period of time, work and run their business.
But it's not work visa, correct? They can only work as a business person.
Yes. Yeah. So they're working, it is a work visa because they're working in their business and they're the owner of a business, or maybe they're buying a new business. So it's like an entrepreneur or an investor visa is what we call it, the E-2 visa. The TN visa for Canadians and Mexicans, it's an excellent way to come to the United States. Yes, you need a job offer, but they don't have to go through the perm process. They don't have to go through a lottery system like H-1B. It's pretty much, you know, I have this job offer. Here's the letter. Here are the details. You send it to the consulate. It can get turned around in like 3 months. So very quick. So that's also one of our favorite type of work visas that we like to do.
But about E2, you said that it's for business. People can come and open their business. How long it takes, like, for approval?
That's actually pretty short as well. It's about 3 to 6 months.
People can, from their, for example, from my country, they can sit there and they can apply, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So, for example, if they have a business in their country that works, like, could be any type of business. You could be truck repair shop. It could be dry cleaning store, any type of business that's working in their country. They've been running it for a couple of years. They know what they're doing, and they come and open the same sort of business in the United States, and they make an investment to open that business, then that can be an E-2 treaty visa.
Do they have like some deadline, like expiration date, E-2 visa?
Yes, so it's going to depend on the country. So each country may have some limitations on how many times they can come and go, but the general rule is for 2 years, and then you could potentially renew it for another 2 years. And then also, if your business is very successful and you're making a lot of money, you could turn in that E-2 treaty into an EB-5, which is an investment visa that leads to a green card. So sometimes we have people come over, start their new business, they do an awesome job, and then we can convert them into an EB-5.
This is most important question. Is it possible that a labor certification might be denied?
Yeah, a labor certification could be denied. It's definitely a very important step of the process. So, like I said, you have to do the proper advertisement, and you have to show that no one else could fulfill the position. So if you have another US citizen that could fulfill the position and you skipped over them, that could be a potential issue. So yes, I mean, at any point during this 3-step process, you could be denied, you could be given a request for further evidence, a notice of intent to deny. So those are all really important pieces that you definitely want an attorney to, you know, help you get through each step of the way.
What about EB2, national interest? Do you do this also?
Yes.
So I heard that it's that with EB2, like national interest, they got approval like sometimes for 3 days, 6 days, like they quick.
So when we're talking about EB2 national interest waiver, these are people with extraordinary abilities, and they don't need an employer to petition for them. So they can self-petition because their work is of national interest. So we're talking about people that are doing cutting edge of technology, maybe climate change studies, AI, things like that, that are really important to the US, you know, in contemporary times. So I've had them approved very, very quickly. The only problem is the green card for EB2 is backlogged. So I think it's on like February 2022. I have to check again, but it's still backlogged. So even if they get a quick approval, we can apply for that green card and the work authorization and the travel document until their visa is current.
Could you tell me, Soulmaz, what is the percentage like of approval and denial maybe for 2023 in your company?
In my company, we have not had any denials for any kind of employment-based cases. So I usually don't take cases unless I'm very confident in the cases. And if there's some issues that we need to resolve or we want to make the case a little bit stronger, we don't submit until we feel very confident. So that may require extra expert witness letters, any additional evidence. But we have not had any denials for any employment-based cases.
It's very perfect. So I will leave your contact to my followers.
Sure.
In Washington, correct?
Yes, Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Arizona. But we can help everyone throughout the U.S. and in any country across the world.
Thank you so much for your time.